First off, I want to send my condolences out to the people who had family members who died in the plane crash. My heart goes out to you. I can't imagine what you must be going through right now. That's absolutely devastating what happened, and I really hope that we get to the bottom of what actually happened there. I would encourage you to go and do your own research. Don't take what I say as the gospel. Go out, do your own research, corroborate, cross-reference, seek to constantly refine your perspective. When I go out looking for information or trying to get to the truth of a matter, I never just settle on one perspective. I take a little bit from this and this and this. Oftentimes I'm accused of fear-mongering on this channel. I just tell it like it is, okay? These are things which genuinely concern me. There's some people who say, oh, you're just trying to fear-monger to make a quick buck. Well, I can tell you with absolute certainty, if you want to see what makes money, go to the trending page. That's what makes money. In a highly domesticated culture which is hell-bent on being optimistic and happy and disregarding reality at all costs, doing anything that runs counter to the mainstream or the status quo is not a financially lucrative exercise. So don't believe that one bit. Now, in my last video, I predicted that the situation was going to escalate, and sure enough, almost 5 or 6 hours after I posted that video, Iran did the attack on the US base. Now, I predicted in that video that they wouldn't do that, and I thought it would be dumb for them to do that because obviously it would be quite incriminating and it would be directly linked back to them, which of course would likely prompt US retaliation. But what they did was a 4D chess move that I did not foresee, and a lot of people did not foresee. They really did the only thing they could have done. And I guess they must have just been praying that there wasn't going to be any human casualties. Now, rumor has it is that they tipped off either the Iraqis or the Americans, and anyways, the Americans caught wind of what was going on. The Americans are trying to say that, you know, they had some kind of early warning system in effect, so they get to look good by saying that, well, we predicted what was coming. They didn't really say why they didn't have Patriot missile, the anti-missile defense system, in place at that location. Iran, of course, is saying that they were able to defeat the Patriot missile system, even though the US claims that there was not a Patriot battery there at the time. So both of them get to look good because the US gets to say, well, we have an early warning system, even though the Iranians probably said, look, we're going to bomb this base, remove your guys out of the way, out of harm's way. That way there's not going to be any casualties, but we have to do this in order to look good. Otherwise, we're going to get eaten alive by these diehard loyalists, nationalists who really are pissed off and want revenge for Soleimani. And we're going to get back to that because many of them do not feel appeased one bit. They still want revenge. And it's problematic because a lot of these different entities that he had his tentacles in, they act autonomously. They're not at the behest of the Iranian government. All of these proxy Shiite groups that he had relationships with, they're not just going to not do something because Iran doesn't fully support it. But the problem is that that's going to be linked back to Iran, of course, and that could potentially cause the situation to escalate. But what I want people to realize is that this is only the beginning. Some people are acting like this is over. This is far from over, unfortunately. The reason why it's far from over, with this next round of economic sanctions, it's going to force the Iranians into a very tough spot. Because now they're saying that they're going to, you know, obviously abandon the nuclear deal, which was already abandoned by the United States. They're going to start enriching more uranium. They're going to build more centrifuges. This means, of course, there's going to be a country in the neighborhood, which I'm sure you all know, who's not going to like that too much, and they are going to pressure some sort of action. The problem is, Iran's economy has already been very crippled because of these economic sanctions. So if there's another round of economic sanctions, harsher sanctions, that means that that's going to potentially plunge the country into further disarray. Now, the death of Soleimani had a unifying effect on the country, and it was an authentic one. A lot of people said, well, these millions of people were paid to go into the streets, or that they felt socially pressured to do so, or the government workers were given the day off so that they could go into the streets. Based on the research I did and what I seen on the ground with some of the reporting that was going on, is that people are genuinely pissed. even if they didn't like Soleimani. Because think about it, there's probably a lot of politicians that you don't like in your country. But if you learned that they were taken out by another country, you would probably be pretty upset just the same. So that's the reason why it's still unifying. Even if you didn't like Soleimani as an Iranian, you still have that sense that you are some shape or form violating. Now this leaves a question mark as to what's going to happen when the austerity there gets so bad as a result of these economic sanctions, yet you have this unity, this newfound unity, but you're still obviously going to have growing discontent and a longing for regime change in the country. But now it's going to be even harder for that division of society to get any sort of footing in the political sphere. The problem with that is they've been trying to destabilize Iran for the last 40 years since the Iranian Revolution. You know, the US-backed coup put in the Shah in 1963, and the Iranians decided as a people that they didn't want that. So they brought in the Ayatollah and the Muslim theocracy. Now, if you don't believe that Iranian regime change is something which is on the US administration's hit list, go and do some research about this group called MEK, which apparently John Bolton was a big advocate for. I find this ironic because they refer to themselves as the Mujahideen of Iran, and they identify as a Muslim Marxist group. If that's not irony coming from a hardline right-winger like John Bolton to be advocating for the regime to be changed in Iran with a more Marxist ideological group, I don't know what is. Anyways, all you need to know is that there's definitely a push by arguably every administration that there has ever been to do regime change in Iran. Some have been more overt about it, some have been more discreet about it. Now, if Iran turns into a Syria or a Libya, that whole region is going to be a powder keg of activity. It's going to be totally destabilized. You're going to have immigration, you're going to have civil war. So for better or for worse, whether you like the Iranian regime or not, in the absence of that regime, whether you think it's good or whether you think it's bad, it still is some measure of order in the sea of chaos there. So in the absence of it, there's a power vacuum, just like with Soleimani. So there's all these autonomous acting proxy groups who now are going to be taking their marching orders from somebody else who they may not respect and revere as much, and they may want vengeance. There's now this airplane that went down. The Iranians vehemently deny that the plane was brought down with a missile. They are outright denying it. Based on the Iranian news sources that I'm seeing. And I would encourage you to go and check out Press TV, the website, because that's the Iranian perspective of things. And it's totally different than what you see here. And obviously, they're using their own propaganda on our population, and we're getting our own over here. So the truth is obviously somewhere in the middle. But it gives you some perspective as to how they're viewing this, okay? They're claiming that the plane was brought down by a technical failure. So I'm going to read you part of this article. Iran's civil aviation chief has rejected as illogical rumors reports that the Ukrainian plane that crashed south of the capital of Tehran was hit by missiles. The plane caught fire 3 minutes into the flight, according to what the witnesses have reported, and the data collected from the parts of the airplane, Abdazullah told Press TV. The pilot tried to return the airplane to the altitude of 8,000 feet, but due to the fire, airplane crashed and exploded, he added. Now, the problem with the accidental shoot down that I wouldn't understand is obviously their flight control would still know where the planes were. It would be very hard for them to misinterpret an enemy plane for a passenger jet. Maybe that was the case, that it was accidentally shot down. I definitely can't see them doing that intentionally. That would make absolutely no sense. If it was found out that they intentionally shot that down, that would immediately bring NATO with the United States unilaterally against them. Now, interestingly, Justin Trudeau, I'm sorry I said his name, I had to say his name. Justin Trudeau came out today and did a press conference like 30 minutes long, and it was strange to me because he basically came out and disclosed that they have intelligence which suggests that the plane was in fact brought down with a surface-to-air missile, and that there's speculation that it was accidentally shot down. But they said they can't 100% confirm this. Now, I find this surprising, especially, you know, for a Canadian, for them to come out and say that without 100% certainty yet, and talking about the specifics, just injecting that into the discourse is a strange thing to me. So what that's going to do now is that's going to increase the likelihood in the future of the rest of NATO being pulled into this conflict. That's what that's setting the stage for. Now, in addition to that, you have the Russians who are in there just like a dirty shirt, offering to sell the Iraqis S-400 missile systems. This is the Iraqis who now want the Americans to leave, because as much as the Iranians are pissed off about Soleimani, apparently the Iraqis are even more pissed off about it, okay? Now remember, you still got ExxonMobil, BP, and Shell doing business in the south of Iraq, which has the second largest oil reserves of any country on Earth. There's still a lot of money to be made there and protected, so you can bet that there's always going to be some sort of Western presence in the region. Now, once again, that's obviously going to piss off the Americans if the Russians are selling S-400s to everybody. They're even selling them to Turkey now. And in Turkey, they have nuclear ballistic missiles. The United States does. So talk about a conflict of interest right there. And that's how you know Russia's really playing both sides of the field here. Because if you really were concerned about the nuclear threat from Turkey, why would you be selling them S-400 missile systems? Maybe it's because they now have S-500 missile systems, which are even more advanced. I don't know. Lastly, there's this War Powers Act, which is a non-binding resolution, meaning that while Mr. Trump's activities might not meet congressional approval, he can still do it legally. There won't be any legal recourse if he does make more executive orders, which bring the United States into war. How this is going to play out in the next few weeks, months, is going to be incredibly interesting. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and no, I've not given up on the survival prepping thing. I got a barrage of videos, and they're going to have the nice blue sidebar, so you know that that's exactly what you're getting. They're going to be more simple, practical, down-to-earth, beginner prepping oriented concepts and topics, which hopefully you'll find useful. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe. Canadian Prepper out.